Hello everyone, and welcome to the first of today's 3 flights. We're in IL2 Sturmovik Cliffs of Dover, which some of you may be familiar with. The IL2 game that they released before IL2 Great Battles and the subsequent series that came out as a result of that. However, IL2 Cliffs of Dover was largely abandoned by the developers after a somewhat disastrous launch, and kind of like Falcon BMS got resurrected from the ashes and brought back into the pale with some updates, and in fact you are witnessing the result of one of those updates now as we are in Tobruk, as Team Fusion Simulations released their IL2 Cliffs of Dover Blitz edition and expanded the theatre to include one of the nicest simulations of the North African campaign that I think I've ever encountered. We're flying a Hurricane Mark 1 fighter bomber tropical variant, just like these ones we see off to our left. We're carrying 8 60-kilogram bombs that we will drop in sets of 4. We will be accompanied by some of those voracious Blenheims as we take off to fend off the Good Friday attack. Just increase our propeller pitch to 100%. Let's see if the engines come up to temperature yet. It'll struggle just a little bit, but oh, getting there, but it's not quite there yet. Oh, there we go. Of course, I've stalled out my engine. All right. There we go. Got the radiators closed, so hopefully everything will get just a little bit of heat in it shortly. We're waiting for the engine to get into a steady idle. There we go. She sounds ready, boys. She sounds ready. We'll use the omnidirectional hydraulic system to set the flaps to 20 degrees as we taxi over to the runway. We've been instructed to take off westwards as the direction of the wind has changed, which means that we want to head over to this end of the runway, but we don't need too much space. Once we take off, our colleagues in other airframes will join us shortly. The perimeter which we're defending is barely a stone's throw from where we're taking off from, so we'll have to do a quick orbit just around the airfield, but we can have a quick look at Tobruk and see what else is going on there. I've always found IL2 Cliffs of Dover to just be absolutely gorgeous. Something about the way that they render their cockpits. Their gun sight reticles look great, their 3D external models look fantastic. Just has a real polish to it that has a distinctly different look, not necessarily better or worse than games like Great Battles or BMS or DCS, but a real sense of identity. Hopefully if there'll be some stuff to shoot at so that we can listen to the tremendous gunfire effects in this series. One of my biggest gripes with IL2 Great Battles has always been the sounds that its guns make, which I have always described as being equivalent to someone jangling keys on a keychain. Once I realized that, I've never stopped being able to hear the guns on planes, like specifically the Russian 20mm sounds a lot like someone jangling a keychain. Okay. Looks like a Hurricane just got shot down by a BF-110. I'm not playing with full reel settings switched on just because some days you just you don't want to have to worry about some of the more tricky things like spotting. Let's just have a look and see if that fight is happening anywhere near us. We can see our waypoints on the map. Take off, head directly southwest, and attack the large formation over point 4 that's approaching our front line. Doesn't look like we have any aircraft, but we will keep an eye out. Okay, let's line up on the runway. And actually, we are going to open up our radiator now that we're taking off, because we are in the desert of North Africa, and that means that it is damn hot outside. Okay, we want to back off the RPMs to about 2600, just so we don't blow our engine. Bring up the gear. You see that omnidirectional H-pattern shifter for the hydraulic system? You can only do one thing hydraulically at a time. One red light, two red lights, okay, and then we can switch to landing flaps down. Oops, wrong direction, landing flaps up. And hydraulics to neutral. Okay, let's cruise around. Looks like our colleagues are getting ready here. Yesterday evening, I splurged out a little bit and bought myself a nice piece of steak and cooked it. I must admit, I'm a real lover of really rare steak. I know one day it will probably get me into trouble, though someone made an interesting point, and you'll have to correct me if you can, and if you know better about steak, that there's a risk of bacteria in things like mince, because mince is cooked... mince, rather, is kind of like beef or pork or whatever, kind of turned inside out. And most of the bacteria exists on the outside of the meat, so if you have a solid piece of meat like a steak piece, the inside of it is like protected from the outside environment, so long as you properly cook the outside, and whatever's going on the inside is not too bad. And then of course on top of that you have European countries that do beef tartare and stuff like that. Tartare? Don't actually know. Truthfully, I've never actually tried it. Okay, looks like the rest of our guys are lining up now, and in fact the first of them looks like they're getting going. Once everyone's up, we will press our attack. We might actually be able to see the battle happening. It's not far away. I'm going to remember to arm my bombs. There we go. Master arm for the bombs is on. He should be heading up shortly. There we go, ready for takeoff. There we go. There he goes, he's got his permission and he's taking off now. I love these big, distant plumes of dust that these aircraft are making as they take off. Check our temperatures, pressures, everything's all good. And there goes Lucky Last. The rest of the guys should form up on Lee eventually. We'll give it one more orbit and then we will head out towards the zone of interest. This is part of a campaign series of missions, a couple of which I've done on stream previously. And defending this place from waves and waves and waves of Junkers 87s is not easy at all. There we can see the twin-engined Blenheims getting ready to take off and get active as well. One of my favourite historical stories to read about, particularly when I was in high school, was the Australians at Tobruk. A real moment of glory, I think, for the personal identity of Australians, considering we were talking about Australia Day on Monday. Australians, considering their history isn't enormously long, I think put a lot of value on quite recent, in a historical way of speaking, events. So World War One and Two, obviously very defining conflicts for pretty much every nation on Earth. But it was definitely where Australia kind of learned what Australia was, as opposed to being yet another colonial outpost for the English. Okay, let's increase our RPMs just a little bit and start heading out on our outbound heading. I've always found it fascinating that one of the key experiences for Australian identity in wartime was at Gallipoli, where the spirit of the Anzac myth originally comes from. And of course that's a battle that Australia and New Zealand, and by extension the Commonwealth as a whole, got pretty much splattered during. Didn't achieve anything except getting thousands and thousands of men killed. But I must admit, I always found that somewhat enthralling, just because for a nation to get its warfighting spirit from an experience that is steeped in the horrors of meaningless conflict, or at least conflict that leads to heavy losses, is something to keep in mind when you're condemning young men to what may be the ends of their lives. Down here, it looks like we've got the 1st Royal Tank Regiment. They're actively engaging along the front line with German forces, actually. It looks like they're giving them a bit of a walloping. Our instructions are not to attack the tanks directly. The Blenheims are going to attack most of them, the heavy vehicles that is. We're instructed to attack the lighter vehicles at the rear. We'll have 2 bomb drops that we can do, so keep our eyes peeled. My squad mates are going in. Some half-tracks, we can strafe those, and some trucks. Perfect, that's what we want. And in fact, there goes our squad mates' bombs. A little bit off target, but not bad. This row of trucks here is perfect. Panzer 3s and Panzer 4s over here. A short-barreled Panzer 4, which I always thought looked very cool and was underappreciated compared to its longer-barreled late war variant. Alright, we're going in. A little bit long, but that's okay. We still got him. We've got a big stack of guns that we can lay into these trucks with. Mobility is key out here in the desert, so denying the enemy transportation is the order of the day. Not that I'm going to be role-playing as Captain America. I've been having a lot of fun recording the 3 Flights videos. It almost feels a little bit like journaling. There are definitely going to come days where I'm not as enthusiastic about doing it, but I'd like to make myself do anyway. For no reason other than to have the practice and the routine and discipline of the experience. I'd love it if people watched. And some people have told me that they're having a great time. Here we go. Nice. And have enjoyed watching it already. For whom I'm extremely grateful for letting me know. Your feedback is better than gold to me. Listen to those gunfire sound effects as well. I don't know if it's just me, but they tickle something in my brain. That sheer kind of... Well, missed him. Careful of the ground fire. Probably just light machine gun, but whoa! Let's not get ahead of ourselves. And fly in front of the skinfeditzers. We're only equipped with 303s, so actually the armor on a half track might actually not be penetrable, but if we get them from the top, maybe we can get the guys inside. Excellent work, excellent, look at them go. Well done, wingmen, well done, wingmen. It doesn't look like we've lost anyone just yet. We'll keep shooting until we empty our guns. Those guys down there will probably appreciate anything we can do to help them out. An absolutely desperate defense being mounted by the Australians, as they have nowhere to go and there is no escape. With ground strafing missions, I always wonder how accurate they would have been in real life. You see the gun camera footage, especially of American aircraft in 1944 and 45, strafing targets on the ground, and of course with 850 caliber machine guns, ground fire is very much to whom it may concern. A little bit of a kick of the rudder just to get the guns over. And of course, a great many of the targets that they would have attacked on those strafing runs would have been the key targets of enemy logistics, which for the German army and their lack of motorization would definitely be quite, oh, you get 'em, boys, you get 'em, would be horses. And I can only imagine, oh boy, I can only imagine what 850 caliber machine guns shooting at a horse at the same time does. Probably nothing good. Nice. there any trucks left? The tanks are progressing past the tanks here. Looks like maybe a Panzer II. And you are? I have no idea. But we've still got ammo, so if we have to shoot at tanks, we'll shoot at tanks. We will see if we can score ourselves a half-track or something like that. Not only did I cook a steak last night, but I also cooked some hash browns. Pleased to announce that the hash browns came out fantastically. This looks like a tank. Maybe Italian, actually. That's a armored, an anti-aircraft vehicle. Let's deal with that. Hash browns came out good. I don't think I got the heat and the timing of it right, so they're a little bit burnt on the outside and a little bit not cooked on the inside. Not badly, but enough to notice. And that's it. That's all the ammo. Let's evac northbound. Just in time for what looks like the Blenheims to start arriving now. Good luck, boys. Looks like the RTR hasn't made out of it totally unscathed. Bunch of burning universal carriers by the trench lines. Couple of tanks left, though. Looks like it might be a Grant or something like that. We've done everything we can for now. Well, let's go north. I don't think I had any family at Tobruk, but my family did not keep very good records of their experiences during the war. Most of them treated it as something that they quite desperately wanted to forget after it was all said and done. Looks like there's an enemy reconnaissance aircraft passing over the area. Well, we have nothing to shoot it down with, but it doesn't appear to be armed, so we'll not worry about them too much for now. Temperatures are still looking good. Fortunately, the big scoop on the front of this hurricane does very well. One of the miniature details in IL2 Cliffs of Dover that I always loved was that the red paper patches that cover the openings of the guns on the wings actually get perforated when you fire your guns for the first time in Cliffs of Dover. It's the little things, isn't it? Looks like we have yet more bowfighters coming along here. Just going to back off the power a little bit. He should depart out to the left, and I will come in from the right. Just need to bleed a little bit of speed. Get the flaps down to about 40 degrees. Just get a little bit of drag going. And landing gear down. One green, two green. I'm never quite sure if I'm meant to land on the left or the right of this row of boards. I think it might actually be to the right from my perspective, but it's just a big sandy field. I'm sure it'll be fine. And hopefully this AI Blenheim doesn't mind that I'm coming in right now. Excuse me, mate. Air traffic control wasn't responding. Got my radio exploded by some ground fire. My bad. I have such a soft spot for the Blenheim. I don't know why, but I do really adore that aircraft. Oops, we did a little bit of a bounce. But that's alright. Make sure we don't prop strike by putting the brakes on too hard. Because they didn't invent ABS until after the war. Let's get ourselves out of the way. We can have a quick look at this Blenheim as we taxi out of his way. The rest of our wingmen will continue their missions until they see fit and they're out of ammo and weapons. It's free hunting out there at the moment. Something about those big, open-faced radial engines, plus that very characteristically British, gangly look that that the Blenheim has of an early war British aircraft. Oh, it's just gorgeous to me, in my opinion. Alright, well, successful first flight. I don't have a lot of time, so flights 2 and 3, I think that we're going to do in a quick scenario, flying something like maybe a Spitfire or a BF-109. We'll have a look. See you guys in a sec. Alright, hello and welcome in for flight number 2. We're straight into the action. We're looking for 2850 on the RPMs, and we are looking at 9 pounds of boost. Here we go. Large squadrons of Junkers 88s are approaching Dover, and they have BF-109 escorts, which is our top priority as a squadron of Hurricanes is vectoring in to attack the bombers. Our radiator is 100% open, that's perfect. We can get stuck in. Protecting Dover at all costs is our charge here. The flight model in this game is fantastic in my opinion. It really, really rewards high quality, high intensity throttle and rudder inputs and encourages you not to lose sight of quite important parts of your aircraft, such as temperatures and pressures, even when things get spicy. Speaking of which, that looks like a BF-109. Some hits on him, but nothing major. With these 303s, it can be really tricky if you don't hit a key area of the aircraft, then they can just keep on flying like nothing's happened. With the BF-109, we're looking for the engine, radiators, and pilot. Feels like we've got good speed here. Just need to close the distance. This is a Spitfire Mark II that we're in at the moment. So if you ever see me put negative G inputs, then the float carburetor does fail and cuts the engine for a hot minute. Okay. We'll break off. We don't want to lose too much altitude for a moment. Looks like we may be able to help out with the bombers now, as we successfully separated out the escorts. I can't actually see where the bombers have got to. Where have you buggers gone? Looks like everything's happening just over here. There they are. Bombs starting to fall throughout Dover Harbour here. Hopefully the hurricanes have managed to effect a response here. If you're contemplating trying out IL2 Cliffs of Dover, but you're worried about the accessibility of it, or getting familiar with any of the controls or how to play or anything like that, I do encourage you to let me know. As it would be my pleasure. I haven't done any research into what hosting a server or an event for Cliffs of Dover would take. It's quite an old game in that regard when it comes to hosting servers and stuff like that. So I would need a little bit of professional advice, I think. Or at least advice from someone who knows better than me. The Junkers 88, known as the Schnellbomber, at this stage in the war is still quite fast, so we'll have to be careful. And of course we're going to have to be very careful of their defensive guns as well. We'll do what damage we can without getting ourselves hurt. And we'll hope that the BF-109s have been distracted away. It looks like we're clear. I have spent so much time flying Spitfires over the years that I feel very at home in this cockpit, even though it has its ups and downs. The forwards visibility is pretty good. It's got a bit of a long nose. Not the end of the world. We should be getting pretty close in firing range here. Alright. Got the attention of their gunners, so we'll get dynamic. Good hits, good hits. Let's break away. Looks like that was enough to convince that crew to give up. Temperatures are still okay, the oil's a bit hot. I was rewatching the film Dunkirk, and there are lots of attitudes about Dunkirk that people have. Certainly not the most historically realistic film, but I still think the dogfight scenes were fantastic. I know some people thought it was a little bit anachronistic, but I just loved it. Okay, we're going to scoop down low here. Let's go for this one guy on the right. Especially the scene with the Heinkel 111 shooting at barrier and just going chuff chuff, bang, 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 bang. Over the top. Got a bullet hole or two on that pass, but that's okay. He's smoking. But he can keep with his formation, so means the job's not done. Right smack bang in the engines. The only problem is that the most heavily armoured or difficult to destroy area for engines like this is actually from directly behind. That's why armour-piercing bullets were included in a lot of the belts for fighters, because firing from the rear with armour-piercing incendiaries would struggle to get through even light armour plating against a target fighter from the 6 o'clock. We do often joke amongst ourselves, though, that shooting down some German aircraft with 303s does feel like you have to shoot so much lead into them that they are too heavy to continue flying. The AI is still not giving up, though, crazily enough. They've killed their gunners. And we are out of ammo. Hopefully that's enough damage to stop that guy from getting home. Let's return back to England before we attract any more attention. Our engine's going to be getting a little bit spicy. Let's just retreat back on the RPMs and get back to 2600. We have given it the whole 9 yards, as they say. And that's one Junkers 88 shot down, one Bf 109 damaged, and another Junkers 88 shot down. Which for one flight for a Spitfire pilot, not a bad result. Hopefully the wingmen manage to get some action too. We're going to head back to England. Alright guys, we're just going to call it there for flight number 2, and let's get up flight number 3. Maybe we'll try something a little bit German. Okay, we'll be right back. And welcome in for flight number 3 of the day. And we're in the Bf 109 E04. One of my absolute favourites. The E-3 and the E-4 I think are just spectacular airframes, and I love them. We are heading in for a bit of a fight with what looks like some Blenheims that are heading in to attack one of our airfields. I'm going to go over the top here, just got to be careful that we don't overdo our engine at all. Of course, the Bf 109 does operate with a prop governor, which means that the RPMs and engine ATA, which is a term that you'll hear thrown a lot around with regards to the German airframes, which is atmospheres. So these two dials here, mechanically linked, but actually you can get quite a large amount of extra performance out of your airframe by manually controlling your RPMs and propeller pitch and ATA for different altitudes. The governation is not perfect. Just have to be careful because these Blenheims do have gunners, but they are on the top, so we're going to attack from the bottom. Hope that our 20mm Minengeschloss rounds will deal with this devil. There we go. 7.7mm machine guns in the nose, and we have, oh boy, we have 20mm guns in the wings. And for this time period in the war, that's actually a really heavy armament loadout. Having cannons on your airframe was very quickly realized to be an extremely good idea. Okay, we're going to push things up here. Just watch out for tail gunners. And just listen to the engine noises that it makes. Got one Blenheim that looks like it's coming out of control here. As flak begins to light them up over the airfield. The 7.7mm machine guns have plenty of ammo, so if you get yourself in a position like this, you can try to do something, but the 50 cals make all the difference. There we go. There has happened that one thing that every Bf 109 pilot fears, that I've told you about before, the perforated radiator. But we are in one of those rare instances where we're actually over France, so actually we can potentially keep attacking here for a little bit. If we were over England, the moment that we get our water tank and radiator perforated, then it's all over Red Rover. But we can keep an eye on our temperatures and pressures. Everything's looking okay so far. It's like the Blenheims might have unleashed their loads. Actually have ammo counters, 24 in the left and 23 in the right. No counters for the nose guns, unfortunately. Our wingmen heading in to try and make something happen. We'll go for the straggler on the far left. Keep an eye on our water temperature, just so we don't accidentally overcook things a little bit. We'll push it to 1.15 ATA, which is kind of at the edge of our combat performance for any reasonable amount of time. Pull up our target into the Revy gun sights. See if we can get him. Oh, look at that! Oh no! Oh no for them, not oh no for me. It can be very effective so long as you're surgical with these few rounds that they give you. And that is not surgical. Oh, bugger. We're out of cannon rounds. And we've developed an oil gasket leak. No! And a small fire. It's even worse. Oh no. We better get this thing on the ground before we end up brown bread. Maybe pegging yourself to the end of a convoy of British aircraft is not the best idea. Oh, thank goodness. The incendiary tracer of that bullet finally burnt out. But our engine is not sounding especially healthy. The flaps take a really long time to come down in the BF-109 because you've got to hand crank them. So we'll turn the wheel. Get it down to about 20 or 30 degrees. Looks like another one of the Blenheims that we attacked has gone down. So things are looking not too bad. Let's get the undercarriage getting down here. We're a little bit fast, but that's okay. We can just kick the rudder out just a bit. And there goes the Governator. So we'll actually raise the flaps now. So you can see that the engine is failing in stages. It's having its Governator fail, and then that causes the RPMs to go haywire, which causes the temperatures to go insane, and now everything's leaking out. The oil gaskets are gone, which means that we've got no oil pressure. And all in all, oh, it's a heavy landing. Ooh. But we're down and safe. And what a beautiful field we found ourselves to reside in. Hopefully someone can come out with a truck and sort me out. I'm healthy. Someone bring me another plane. Alright guys, have a very, very lovely weekend. I'll be streaming tomorrow on Friday, and I'll be hanging out with you on the weekend as well. Lots of love. I'll see all of you guys later. Bye bye.